Good evening, all. Today we are going to discuss. If I go through with your LMS, we discuss I would say here you can see the auditor's expert and the initial audit engagement and the comparative financial figures is Sri Lanka Standard on Quality Management 1, 2, and Audit Quality Framework. And after that, we discuss the group auditing and not audit sampling, other engagement. Today we are going to audit sampling we discuss and internal auditors we are not yet discussed. Audit reporting also up to some extent discuss, and we are not going to leisurely we are going to discuss the audit digital environment, auditing in the digital environment. Today our focus is I would say the other engagement, right? It can be audit and non-audit engagement, it means assurance and non-assurance engagement. So before moving to the session, so let me quickly go through with the Excel sheet with you. I think in the Excel sheet you can visible. So you know that services which are can be provided by a chartered accountant, services that can be provided by a chartered accountant is two types. It means assurance and non-assurance services. We technically call assurance services and non-assurance services. Non-assurance we called as I would say related services. What is that? Related services. Non-assurance services we call as related services. The distinction between assurance and non-assurance services is purely based on the assurance framework. I think you are aware that that is the CREST framework. You know that CREST, CREST. We have to have a suitable criteria, if we have a suitable criteria and we have a report and we have a sufficient and appropriate, I would say I am not writing sufficient and appropriate audit evidences, the audit evidence should be sufficient and appropriate. So I think you know that. Sorry for the disruption. So again, we are moving to the chart. The services which is can be provided by a chartered accountant is two types: assurance services and we call as an non-assurance or the related services. The definition, sorry, the classification between assurance services and non-assurance services or the related services is purely and mainly based on the assurance framework. I think so you are aware that that is the CREST framework. The C denotes that the criteria, suitable criteria. So the R denotes the report. E sufficient and appropriate audit evidences. And S subject matter, it means financial statement, most of the circumstances, subject matter. And here the T is the tri-party relationship. So tri-party relationship. So I think you aware that. So if we draw like that, the financial statements is prepared by management, which is presented to the shareholders, but shareholders do not trust the management. Therefore, shareholders appoint a chartered accountant or the independent third-party person to come and check this financial statement and give me a report to the shareholders. Report to the shareholders. Drawing is not that much good because I don't have a proper space to write. Here the financial statement is prepared by management and presented to the shareholders. Therefore, shareholders do not trust. Therefore, shareholders are appointed third-party individual for chartered accountant. Chartered accountant is looking this financial statement and yeah, based on that is gathering audit evidences. He's give a audit report, impartial audit report, independent auditor's report. Right? So in that case, we call a management as a responsible party. Responsible party. The chartered accountant or the auditor is called as a practitioner. Technically, shareholders is called as a intended user. That is the tri-party relationship. So I think that is you aware. So tri-party relationship. So with that note, let me start because all five need to fulfill if it is categorized under assurance services. If not, one of also missing, it is a non-assurance services. You want to keep remember, all five need to satisfy. All five need to satisfy. Need to satisfy. Not one, not two, all five need to satisfy. If one of that not satisfied, it is categorized for the non-assurance services. Non-assurance or the related services. I think that is clear for you. So the assurance services, it is two types. I'm not going to draw because it may time consuming. Assurance services is two types. Historical financial information. I am writing short form. Historical financial information and other information. Other information. So the historical financial information, again, it is two types. Reasonable assurance and limited assurance. Reasonable assurance and limited assurance. Reasonable assurance and limited assurance. Limited assurance. So the reasonable assurance means external audit. Since we are carrying out the external audit, we provide a reasonable assurance, not an absolute assurance. Reasonable assurance we call as a positive level of assurance, and limited assurance is a negative level of assurance, a lower level of assurance, right? So the reasonable assurance means the external auditing, we are providing a reasonable assurance. So I would like external auditing, EA, external auditing, we are providing a reasonable assurance. So in there, reasonable assurance, it also two types. So you can see the reasonable assurance. Also, we are providing audit of the general purpose financial statement. So normal audit of general purpose, audit of general purpose financial statement, general purpose financial statement. So the SLA US 200 drew, SLA US 202, 720 series, 200 to 720 series will be applicable for the general purpose financial statement audit. If it is a special purpose, it is 200 to 720 plus 800 series will be applied. Audit of, I would say, special purpose financial statement. Special purpose, I would like a special purpose financial statement. If that's so, the SLA US Sri Lanka auditing standard 200 to 720 plus 200 720 series plus 800 805 810 will be applicable. So you know reasonable assurance will be provided at external audit, but it is review engagement or the limited assurance. Limited assurance here, it is a limited assurance. I will use different color. I'm sorry for that. Limited assurance. In here, you can see the limited assurance. That is the review of historical financial. It is also two types. Review of in the limited assurance, we are providing a review. The negative type of assurance. Nothing has come to our attention. I think you can aware. You are not you note at that, right? Review of historical financial information. Review of historical financial financial information, review of historical financial information. This cannot be done by the current auditor. So who are the audit of the company, statutory auditor cannot do these kind of things. Review of historical financial information. Another one is review of interim financial information, review of interim. So the interim IFI. Interim financial information, this is only allowable and permitted to do for the current auditor or the existing external auditor, right? If it is a EY can do that. The current auditor is only EY, the historical financial information review cannot be carried out by EY. Despite of that, it can be either carried by KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, whatever the another audit firm, except for the current auditor review of historical financial information, right? So I think that is clear. When it comes to the other information, I'm not going to write. I'm saying like the internal control, the corporate governance, KPI, sustainability report, pro forma financial statement. So we are discussing the PFI, the pro forma financial information. pro forma greenhouse gas statement, budgeted financial statement, forecasted, those things is coming under the other information. So I'm deleting these things because due to the space limitation. If it is a non-assurance services or the related services, it is two types agreed upon. So I am using AUP, agreed upon procedures, and the compilation engagement. So the AUP and compilation engagement, AUP agreed upon. We agree and do that. The name itself is given the meaning agreed upon and compilation. This is most probably audit firms are doing agreed upon and compilation engagement. Compilation. Right, agreed upon the Sri Lanka Standard of Related Services. It is a related service. SLSRS, Sri Lanka Standard of Related 4,400 is applicable. And compilation, compiling the information, it is accumulating and collecting the information, and we are doing that. The Sri Lanka Standard Review Engagement 4,410 is applicable. There is a limited application of the compilation engagement, the evolving preparation of the financial statement in compilation engagement. So with that note, let me quickly go through the TUTE with that basic knowledge. Without that knowledge, you cannot be learn those stuff in proper manner. So let me go through the TUTE first. So firstly, we are going to these agreed upon procedures. So you can see the PFI, it is other information. I told you it is other information category types of that. And agreed upon, it is a related services, non-assurance services. So AUP. And this is the important. The Sri Lanka Standard Review Engagement, SLSRS RE 2,400. This is the review of historical financial information. Review of financial statements means a review of historical financial information. Sri Lanka Standard on 2,400 review engagement, right? So you can see the purpose of this SLSR is to provide and guidance on the auditor's professional responsibilities when the engagement of review of the financial statement. This is not a external audit, nor reasonable assurance. Despite of that, we are providing a limited assurance, right? For the form and content of the report that the auditor issues in connection with such review. So you know that in a review engagement, we are providing a negative assurance. Nothing has come to our attention, not a reasonable assurance. Objective of the review engagement. The objective of a review engagement, the review of financial statement is to enable an auditor to state whether on the basis of the procedures we do not provide all of the evidence that would be required in an external audit, right? We are not doing a high level of work which we carry out when we are doing an external audit or the reasonable assurance, right? The name itself is given, it's limited. Anything has to the auditor's attention that causes the auditors to believe that the financial statements are not prepared in all material respects in accordance with an identified financial reporting framework, right? So here these are the basic of that. The audit, we providing a high level of assurance. Review, it is a moderate or the negative level of assurance. It is positive form. The negative form, audit in we are vouching and verify. In review, the analytical ARP is given and inquiry from the management is there. The variance analysis, the trend analysis is the main audit procedure in the review engagement, right? And a review engagement provides a moderate level. It's repetitively it is mentioned that it's a moderate level. And negative type of assurance, the reasonable assurance audit. Yeah, in carrying out audit, we are providing a reasonable assurance RA and an engagement to support an opinion on the financial statement expressed in a positive form. Reasonable assurance is a high level, but it's not an absolute assurance. The limited assurance, it is a review engagement and engagement to support a conclusion. So we are not saying an opinion. Despite of that, we are providing a conclusion on the financial statement in the terms where anything has to come to the practitioner's attention to indicate that the financial statements are not prepared in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework, AFRF. The practitioner conveys a level of assurance that is limited proportional to the level of the practitioner's procedures, given the characteristics of the subject matter and other relevant engagement circumstances described in the assurance report. The auditor should comply with the Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics issued by CA Sri Lanka, plan and perform the review of the attitude of the professional skepticism, being an questioning mind always, and be vigilant on the environment of the client. the requiring that circumstances may exist which cause the financial statement to be materially misstated. Obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence primarily through inquiry and AR analytical procedures, right? The terms of engagement, the auditor and the client should agree on the terms of engagement through a engagement letter. The agreed terms should be recorded in an engagement letter or suitable form of such contract, right? Helps to the EL, the engagement letter is, if we have an engagement letter, it helps to avoid misunderstanding in planning and review work. Documenting the key terms of the appointment. An engagement letter confirms the auditor's acceptance of the appointment, extent of the auditor's responsibility, and the form of report to be issued. Matters that would be included in the engagement letter, the objective of the service performed, the management responsibility, the scope of the review, including reference to the Sri Lanka Standard Review Engagement. The scope of the review, including reference with the Sri Lanka Standard Review Engagement 2400, unrestricted access to the weather records, documentation to the auditor, the sample of the report expected to be rendered, right? The fact that engagement cannot be relied upon the disclosure errors, illegal acts, or other irregulation, for example, fraud or deflation, deflacations that may exist, a statement that the auditor does not being performed, and that an audit opinion will not be expressed because this is a review. So you can leisurely read those stuff, the format, you can see stuff. I'm not going to mention each and every thing because the accruals, so the cash, the conclusion, no, same thing it is given, unqualified opinion. So you can read, right? So the nothing has come to our attention based on our review because of the pervasive effect in the finance statement that matter discussed in the preceding paragraph. The company finance statement do not give true and fair view or not presented fairly. I think this is a modification. Modify, right? Adverse opinion. Review report. We have reviewed the balance sheet of the ABC Co. The related statement in income cash flow, the finance statement of the responsibility of the company's management. Our responsibility to issue and report. We conducted our review in accordance with Sri Lanka auditing standard and applicable review engagement. This guidance requires we plan and perform the review to obtain moderate assurance as to whether the financial statement are free from materialistic. Review is limited primarily to inquiries of the company's personal and analytical procedures applied to the financial data and thus provide less assurance than an audit. We do not perform an audit and accordingly we do not express an audit opinion. Despite of that, we providing a conclusion, right? So next we go to the AUP, agreed upon procedures, that is the Sri Lanka Standard on Related Services 4400. This is an unassurance services. So the introduction, the purpose of the Sri Lanka Standard on Related Service is to provide guidance on the auditor's professionals responsibilities when an engagement to be performed as a AUP regarding financial information is undertaken and on the form and content of the report that the auditor issues in connection with such engagement, right? This SLAs is directed towards engagement regarding financial information. However, it may be appropriate, it may provide useful guidance for engagement regarding non-financial information, provided the auditor has adequate knowledge of the subject matter in question and reasonable criteria exist on which the base of finding. We call as a factual finding, right? When I read this, I know that here you can see the factual finding, right? Fact and finds factual, right? The objective and AUP. The objective of a agreed upon procedures engagement is for the auditor to carry out audit procedures of an audit nature, but it's not audit nature to which the auditor and the entity and any appropriate third parties have agreed, and we agree and doing that agreed upon. That is why, and report on the factual findings. The term factual finding is important. As the auditor simply provides a report on the factual finding of agreed upon, no assurance is expressed, right? No assurance. Instead, users of the report assess themselves their own conclusions and performed by the auditor's work. The report is restricted to the those parties that have agreed, because if we agree with management and auditor, that is restricted for the auditors and management. If it is for the, let's say it is for the bank loan. In order to get a bank loan, bank is saying you need to perform a review and which is certified by a chartered accountant, not a review because you want to certify a test by a chartered accountant, independent third party. So you are doing that. So you are telling auditor these things is required by the bank and you agree with the auditor and doing that, that is restricted to the auditor, management and the bank intended user. That is restricted, not for the common public. The general principle in AUP, the auditor shall comply with Code of Ethics issued by CA Sri Lanka. The ethical principles, integrity, the fundamental ethical principles, you know that 5, integrity, objectivity, professional competence, and you care. So the confidential and professional behavior. Independence is not a requirement for the agreed upon because however, the terms of the objective of an engagement may require the auditor to comply with the independence requirement of CA Sri Lanka Code of Ethics. So you can leisurely read procedures. The procedures applied and the engagement to perform AUP, inquiry, recomputation, comparison, and the other clerical accuracy check, clerical observation, inspection, and obtaining third-party confirmation. Right, the reporting format is given title, addressee, identification of the specific financial or non-financial information which is agreed upon have been applied. A statement of that the procedure performed were those agreed upon with the recipient. A statement that the engagement was performed in accordance with Sri Lanka auditing standard, auditing practice statement applicable with AUP. With relevant, a statement that auditor is not independent of the entity. Identification of the purpose for the which the AOP is performed, a listing of the specific procedures performed, description of the auditor's factual findings is important, a description of the auditor's factual findings, sufficient detail, errors, exceptions found. A statement that procedures performed do not constitute either for audit or reviews, as such, no assurance is expressed, right? The statement restricted for those parties who agree, date and the auditor's address and auditor's signature. Statement when applicable, the report relates only to the elements, accounts or items of financial and non-financial information specified and it does not extend the entity financial statements taken as a whole, not like audit. So only particularly limit to particular line items or the agreed items. So that is the end of the AUP session and thank you.